अस्सलाम वालेकुम फ्रेंड्स। आज मैं आपको एक ज़बरदस्त इंटरव्यू जो कि बीबीसी ने नून लीग के रहनुमा इशाक डार का किया, उसका इंटरव्यू आपको दिखाना चाहता हूँ कि इन लोगों की हकीकत क्या है, कितने लॉयल हैं पाकिस्तान से और किस तरह पाकिस्तान को ये लोग फ़ायदा या नुकसान दे रहे हैं। आप ख़ुद इनकी ज़बानी देखिए। प्लीज़ इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, बेल आइकन को क्लिक कीजिए ताकि आपको हर नई आने वाली वीडियो शेयर हो सके। इंशाअल्लाह देखिए इंटरव्यू इशाक डार का बीबीसी के साथ।
Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Stephen Sacker. Imran Khan won power in Pakistan 2 years ago with a promise to root out corruption and take on the country's vested interests. So how's it going? Well, rising food prices and the COVID pandemic have left many Pakistanis feeling worse off, while the anti-corruption drive has become a political battleground. My guest today, Ishaq Dar, was Pakistan's finance minister, a key lieutenant of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Now, both of those men are trying to rally opposition to Imran Khan. But how much credibility do they have? Ishaq Dar, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let us begin with your personal status, your legal status.
Sure.
You are a wanted man in Pakistan. Are you here in London to escape the judicial process?
Well, not really. I think you must be aware of the Pakistan history. That whenever in Pakistan over a period of 73 years, the corruption rhetoric has been used in the last few dictatorships, and the current one isn't different because this regime is known to be under a covert coup or a judicial martial law. So I can prove that there is nothing against me, and I have all the evidence. I hope that you know that the prime allegation against me, my name was not in Panama paper. My name was not in the 20th of April.
Let me stop you, because some people will not be following this in great detail.
Sure.
You're saying your name was not in the Panama Papers. Nonetheless, we learned an awful lot from those Panama Papers published in 2016 about money is being stashed away in foreign bank accounts, and it involves some very top-level Pakistanis. And there was reason to believe that not just Nawaz Sharif's family was involved, but your family too.
No. There isn't any mention of my family.
I'm not saying there was a specific mention of your family, but the National Accountability Bureau decided after the publication of the Panama Papers to look very closely at yours and your family's interests, assets and accounts.
Most welcome.
And they found that there were grave problems with your accounts.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because you see, I'm sure that you would be privy that it was the Supreme Court direction which set up a joint investigation team, which is extrajudicial activity which Supreme Court decided, and there were 2 military intelligence members who were virtually governing out of the 6 members of the JIT. So you see, there's a background.
Well, I'm actually interested in what's known in Pakistan as the National Accountability Bureau, which is the main agency of anti-corruption. And they look very carefully at you and your family's interests, as you well know. And in September 2017, they concluded that you and your family owned assets, quote, beyond your known sources of income. They said quite specifically the accused, that is you, has acquired assets and pecuniary interests, resources in his own name and the name of dependents, totaling roughly $6 million US, more than 830 million Pakistani rupees. Now, is it your contention that the National Accountability Bureau has no integrity?
It has lost its integrity long time back. It is an institution which is used against political opponents.
But you didn't say that with respect, sir, when you were a very senior serving government minister.
No, I did. I held press conference. And I explained, by the way, this number as per my tax return. I never missed. You see, the prime allegation against me, which was in the JIT report, on the basis of which Supreme Court directed NAB to file a reference, was that I did not file 20 years tax return in Pakistan. 1981 to 2001, a UK qualified chartered accountant, never missed reporting his tax matters in UK when he was here till 1976, and then in the North America 2 years, and in Pakistan since 70 years, never missed any tax return. So this is such a blatant allegation.
Is it? Well, in that case, let's be very open and transparent with each other. I've interviewed many government officials and ministers around the world over many years, and they always say, oh, I'm not responsible for any corruption at all, and I believe in transparency.
I do.
You do?
Oh,
so
yes,
how many properties do you and your family own?
It's all declared in my tax returns.
You see, just give me the answer, because I don't know. How many properties do you and your family own?
I have my main residence in Pakistan, which has been taken over by by this regime. So I haven't bought too many properties.
How many properties do you and your family own?
My net worth is what has been.
How many properties do you and your family own? One
sole residence.
You and your family own
Yes,
one property.
my sole
So
residence.
all of these stories in the Pakistani press about multiple properties owned by your family inside Pakistan, property interests overseas, including in Dubai, wherever, and we're sitting in London. We're sitting in London. You own nothing in London?
No.
Your family, not just you, your family.
No, not at all.
Own nothing?
No, because
And Dubai?
the government.
Dubai?
My sons have just one villa, which is owned by them. They're in business for the last 17 years.
So when I asked you how many properties you and your family own, and you said one, that wasn't strictly true.
No, it is strictly true because they're adults, they're married, 17 years they're in business, so they're independent of me.
You know very well that when the NAB looked at your assets, they were looking at you and your family.
I have no issue. My family, everything is accounted for. That's exactly.
See, if all of this is so clear-cut, you only own one property in the entire world. Your tax records have been kept and given to the authorities over the last 20 years. If everything is so crystal clear, why do you not go to Pakistan and make this case in a court of law?
Well, the court of law, my lawyers were there. I'm here for medical treatment. I have a cervical issue.
You've been here for what, best part of 3 years on this medical issue?
Almost, yes, I am.
Are you still really suffering?
Yes, I am.
And you couldn't possibly get back to Pakistan?
Well, let's see what's happening in Pakistan. Where are the human rights? What's happening in NAB custody? Where people dozens of people have been killed virtually.
Sorry, you're saying that the human being investigated by the NAB, the National Accountability Bureau, have been killed?
In the NAB custody, many people have died. Yes, it's an open secret. You Google and you would have all the detail. I can leave detail with you if you want to. You see, this institution has been politically used against opponents. As I said, that I never missed a return. The premise of the entire thing, and whatever they say, my net worth is already, if it is documented in my tax return, and my tax return is not missing, so it is totally accounted for. So what is the issue? The issue is something different. Because Mr. Sharif was fighting for the civil supremacy, and I have always been fighting for the financial and fiscal discipline, transparency.
Right, so you introduced the name Mr. Sharif, so I think we need to talk about Mr. Sharif as well as yourself, because Nawaz Sharif is also in London, also on medical grounds. He...
Manhandled by the NAB, in his custody.
Manhandled, you say. Yeah. The truth is, Nawaz Sharif is a convicted criminal.
Well, I hope you know that both cases in which he has been convicted, in both judgments, it has been written that the prosecution has not been able to prove any corruption, any kickback, any loss to the exchequer. What else we want?
I'm sorry, sir, but it is quite clear that he is a convicted criminal. And again, the Accountability Court, which works alongside the National Accountability Bureau, found against Mr. Sharif. I believe he was given a 10-year sentence, and it was reduced ultimately to 7 years. He was then allowed to come to London on medical grounds, the same medical grounds that you brought you to London too. So here there's two of you sit, and now you and you of course used to be his finance minister in the Pakistan government. You and he put yourselves forward as leading voices in the opposition in Pakistan, demanding early elections and an end to Imran Khan's government. And I ask you, what credibility do you think you have with the Pakistani
I think what credibility Imran Khan government has. The world has witnessed that it was a stolen election. it was a rigged election. It's not we are saying. We have experienced. All pre-poll 2018 surveys indicate that PMLN will win. But the observers, the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, the 30th election, everybody knows the election has been stolen from us. So I think we have every
respect,
right.
I just look back at the EU monitors' report on that election. They reported some grave concerns about abuses in specific places, not involving just one party, but several different parties. But the final and ultimate conclusion was that they believed the result was credible, that Imran Khan's election victory in 2018 was credible. That was the conclusion of the EU report.
Then you haven't read all the reports. The human rights,
you can cherry pick the most negative. I'm telling you that the EU monitors, highly respected, independent monitors, looked at everything that happened in Pakistan, and they concluded that Imran Khan's victory was credible.
No, Free and Fair Election Network, which is the global one. Do we have any question on their integrity? What do they report?
I don't believe that there's ever been an election in Pakistan without some abuses, where every single thing was conducted with freedom and integrity. That doesn't work in Pakistan. The truth is, Imran Khan has a democratic mandate. He's been in power for 2 years, and you are now saying to the Pakistani people, he must be removed from office.
Mr. Secretary, this election has been stolen. It was a rigged election. There was a pre-poll rigging. Electables from our party were pushed to his party using the NAB. During the day, the results transmission system was choked off and was put off for hours. Our polling agents were expelled from the poll. I mean, Fafin has reported 35 seats were rigged and stolen. Otherwise, he would have never been in government.
Well, your party chooses to say that. I would simply come back to Michael Gala, the chief of the EU monitoring team, who said overall,
I think you have to
this
read the whole
election result is credible.
Well, this. You haven't read the whole report. Let's go to the whole report of EU chief. Please go through what he said before this last sentence.
Well, of course, his conclusion is the most important thing. I think you'd agree. Maybe you wouldn't. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about what your tactics are now. Because as I've said, you and Nawaz Sharif are sending your video links back into Pakistan, sometimes to thousands of people, demanding an early end to the Imran Khan government. And this is what, just a month ago, Nawaz Sharif said to thousands of people in Punjab. He said that the integrity of the army chief, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, had disappeared. He said that the general was responsible for levering him out of office and rigging 2018, as you've said. Quote, this is what Nawaz Sharif said. You, directly to the general, the chief of the army, he said, you packed up our government and you put the nation at the altar of your own wishes. You rejected the people's choice in elections and installed an inefficient, incapable group, leading to economic catastrophe. What an extraordinary thing to say of your country's chief of army.
It's a reality. The buck stops at the top. And the deep state is known what deep state does in Pakistan. I mean, is it a surprise to you, Mr. Secretary? It is known to the world. Is Hillary Clinton the other day just gave an interview, and she said, "What is deep state?" Quoting Pakistan as an example. So please, we must be fair to analyze things. The election was stolen. It started off from down leaks. Mr. Sharif has been struggling for the supremacy of democracy, for the supremacy of parliament, and I have been struggling for the fiscal and discipline and the transparency. Is it wrong? I mean, UK has been upholding the democracy and the democratic values. We would think that you would be supporting us.
So let us be clear. You are saying that the Pakistani military, the army in particular, are subverting all democratic processes in your country. Is that what you're saying?
This is the global reports. I mean, it's not...
No, I want to be clear what you're saying.
Well,
because the Pakistani people will be listening to this interview, and you are condemning the military of your own country as subverting your democracy.
It's not the military. I think we have to talk about the individuals. It's not all the entire institution. I think let's create a difference. It's the wish list. It's a plan of certain people who enforce in Pakistan.